Guys, you're back with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, for another episode of Lore. But if you're a fan of Nirvana, I want to show you the back of my shirt because it's really cool. You won't swivel one way. Swivel! It's an old band t-shirt that I cut into like a, you know, so yeah. Old Nirvana is so good. I guess it's all old now, but I'm just saying, like, this song, Sliver, comes from the, is it called Aneurysm or Incesticide? The Incesticide album. Which, when I was at the record store, was $60. So I guess I'll have to save up for it, you know, because I want to have all Nirvana on vinyl. Alright, back to lore. Saturday Night Lore. See my horns? I've placed them so strategically. There's a skull back there. Okay, guys. This one is one of my favorites I've read so far. We're reading out of this book, Lore. The World of Lore, Wicked Mortals by Aaron M-A-H-N-K-E. You guys, I'm not the best at pronouncing things, so thank you for forgiving me. Okay, Peg and Button. In 1758, the northeast corner of North America was at war. 2 years prior, conflict had broken out between British and French colonists. The French, being vastly outnumbered, leaned heavily on an alliance with the Native American tribes of the region. Today we call the conflict the French and Indian War, but no matter what you call a war, it's always political, and it's always violent, and it's always a way of trickling down and affecting the powerless. So maybe that's why the young men from Gloucester, on the rocky coast of Massachusetts, went out and got drunk the night before they were supposed to ship out to the front lines in the north. That's what I would do. Heaven's sakes, that would be scary. My husband went through that. He fought in Iraq, and I can't imagine what he went through as an 18-year-old boy. Okay. There were 5 of them. Jack Quass, Job, and David Stanwood, Thomas Aries, and Jim Parsons, which makes me laugh, because if you know who Jim Parsons is, Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, that's his name, is Jim Parsons. Anyway, not to interrupt the story, I'm sorry. And Jim Parsons. All part of a larger battalion of 40 men who were about to follow one Captain Biles north into Canada. These men hadn't been conscripted. They'd volunteered, looking forward to the glory and honor of battle. We don't know why, but these 5 men did their best to make the most of the night of freedom. They visited a local tavern and had many more than their fill of the local brew. And then, the night still young, they stumbled out and began looking for trouble. Let's be honest. Young, drunk men are always looking for trouble, no matter what century we're talking about, right? It's funny. It's so true. While walking through town, the young soldiers-to-be encountered Peg Wesson. Now, you need know some details about Peg. First, she was old and widowed. Second, she was tiny. Most records say she was a mere 99 pounds, a number they called a witch's weight. Funny story about that, by the way. Because in the 1750s, you were apparently a witch if you were tiny. They claimed it helped to be light if you wanted to ride a broomstick. I know. Don't try to make sense of it. Just roll with it. That's what the book says. Peg also had a reputation for being a troublemaker. She had a quick temper, loved to voice her opinion, and had a tendency to cause trouble in town. Maybe it was the alcohol driving their decisions, or that night before deployment feeling invincibility, but for some reason these young men decided to walk over to Peg's house on Back Street and knock on her door. When she answered the door, they let themselves in. Then they mocked her while searching the house for her broomstick. It was a horrible invasion of her private space, and most people would feel violated. Peg, however, knew how to fight back. She flipped and cursed them. The legends say that Peg forced all of them out of her home by promising them all a violent death in battle. Specifically, she claimed that the men would meet their ends outside Fort Louisbourg in Nova Scotia. Months later, so the story goes, all of the men from Gloucester, part of a battalion of their from their hometown, found themselves outside of the very walls of the fortress old Peg had mentioned in her curse. They were pinned down by French riflemen who were perched atop a massive wall of the fort and were doing their best to stay out of sight. That's when a large crow appeared in the sky. Yeah. It was larger than any crow they'd ever seen before, and it flew in a large circle around the scene of the battle. Then, without warning, it began to swoop down and attack the young men who had visited Peg's house months before. Each time, the men were forced from their hiding place and put at risk for being shot by the enemy. So I think the crow was coming down and shooing them out of their space so that they would be prey. Shooing them down into the gunfire, you know? Frustrated and frightened, the men fired at the bird. The legend says that some of the shots even struck the bird, but the bullets seemed to glance off it. Convinced the bird was a devil or some sort of supernatural being, these men regrouped and discussed their options. And while doing so, they came to one horrifying conclusion. The crow was not a crow, but old Peg. Jim Parsons was the son of a minister, and they said he had some knowledge of the supernatural, so he proposed a new idea. Silver was the only metal powerful enough, silver, always got it, to bring down the bird. Where am I at? Silver was the only metal powerful enough to bring down the devilish bird. So he took the silver buttons from off the sleeve of his military uniform, loaded them into his musket, and then waited for the bird to return. When it did, Parsons fired and struck his target. The bird was stopped in midair and spiraled to the earth yards away from the men. And that was the end of their trouble. The battle for the fortress was won by the men of Gloucester a short while later, and all of the men soon returned home. They were heroes, and the town welcomed them back. Their return sparked conversation, though. They told their stories over and over, and as they did, someone in town noticed a detail that no one else did. The date of their battle outside Fort Louisbourg, the day they fired the silver button at the ominous crow, was the same day that someone in Gloucester had taken a deadly fall. Who do you think it was? Old Peg, it seems, had stumbled just outside her home on Back Street that very same day. When she did, she had apparently injured her leg. Of course, she was an elderly woman, but it's common for older folk to take a fall and hurt themselves. But something was unique about Peg's story. The people of Gloucester told the soldiers that the fall had actually killed Wesson, and that after she was found and brought to a physician, he examined the leg to see what the cause of the injury was. When he did, he found a curious wound. A wound, they say, that resembled something caused by a gunshot. When the doctor inspected further, he found a bullet lodged in the bone. He pulled it out of her leg and placed it on the table beside her body, and then grabbed a clean rag to wipe off the blood. When he did, he held his breath. It wasn't a bullet, it was a silver military button. And that is the end. I really like this story, because, well, I believe it's true. I believe a lot of lore has a lot of truth to it, but then a lot of fiction added. But I feel like when this book puts it together, it just puts together like the solid facts and it's somehow revised. So, Peg and Button, flippin' fantastic. I love this story. I hope you guys too. I hope you guys do too. And now we are on to what? Egyptology Sunday. And then I will be showing you guys how to make a tincture to get your colds to stay at bay. Because right now, even though it's early September, everybody has started to be getting colds. So and I lost my voice yesterday for like 4 hours. So that's why I've been drinking so much and trying to keep it hydrated. I've got some lovely honey tea, which I'm going to show you how to make with Manuka honey. And I know my voice is a little off, so I apologize. But I love you guys so much. And I think after this, I'm going to take you on a tour of what I've done with my closet. Because it's opened up my room so much. My room feels like such a bigger space. I got all this stuff off the floor and into my closet. And I want to inspire you guys to do the same thing. So, all my love. Thanks for listening to Peg and Button. Thanks for joining me, the Taxidermy Witch Jen. And I'll see you guys soon for another episode of Saturday Night Lore. But come back because I have daily episodes of everything. From the sun to the moon, to the black to the white, to, I don't know, another reference. I'm losing my voice, so I'll talk to you guys soon.